Well, Pete, I can't wait for the sports. So let us know what you got today.
All right. Big weekend, and I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with what are the three best games out of the three biggest of the different conferences that are out there. So first one, it actually is not over the weekend, John. It's Friday, and Friday night, 400 consecutive sellouts, as we said, Nebraska. Number 24, Illinois. By the way, they're 3-0. Their quarterback has been lighting things up. They really look good. This is a coach, Bielema, that a lot of people don't like him because he's colorful. He can be abrasive. He can do all those types of things. I really like the guy. If I was playing football right now, that would be one of the coaches that I would love to play for because I like the way he motivates his team and how he recruits and all that type of thing. I think it's pretty impressive. But it's going to be at Lincoln. It's going to be a night game. We already saw a night game a while ago against Colorado, and that one went pretty well for Nebraska. The black shirts might be back. It might be a little early to call that, but Shadur was able to throw on Nebraska pretty well. They held him out of the end zone pretty well as well. So I think that game should be great. I also look at Big 12, John. You've got Utah against Oklahoma State, number 12 against number 14. Utah's got a great defense. Oklahoma State has a great offense. We'll see who ends up winning that one. That should be a good battle in the Big 12. And then the SEC. How about number 6, Tennessee? These guys are, it's like a pinball machine, John, the way they score points. It just goes on and on against Oklahoma, at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, in my opinion, has not played great yet this year. And all my buddies love their defense. So I'm going to say, if you've got the top 5 offense and a top 5 defense over there with Tennessee, that's going to be a tough opponent. We'll have to see. I mean, this time of year, you look at what people have done and you say, well, wait a minute now. That was against, a pretty inferior, team or school or whatever. I would say this, Tennessee is for real. We'll find out this weekend against Oklahoma.
Yeah, and Nico, the quarterback at Oklahoma, Pete, that kid's making a name for himself. Mm-hmm. So we will certainly be talking about him, I think, next week when we review that Tennessee-Oklahoma game. All right, next one, Pete. You've got the biggest game of the week in the NFL. What is it?
There's only one. There's only one game that really matters. I'm not kidding. You look through it and you're like, a bunch of boring-looking games. It's not, it doesn't look anything sexy except for one. Houston. Houston is coming to Minnesota. And why is that such an important one? Well, CJ Stroud has turned out to be a hell of a lot better than not only Bryce Young, but a lot of quarterbacks that are out there. And this kid, what he did in 1 year and the rest of the draft picks that they got, but they changed this team from a loser into a winner pretty damn fast down there in Houston. So I think them coming up here to Minnesota to play in the stadium right over there, US Bank, that's going to be big because everybody's saying Sam Darnold is the second coming of Fran Tarkington, I guess, John. So I'm not really sure how to read this whole thing. He's played pretty well. But I'll tell you what, CJ Stroud still got no interceptions, throws touchdowns, has a great running game, and they got one hell of a defense. And they got Danielle Hunter, a former Viking for many years, fastest man to get 50 sacks in his career, and he's now down there. This should be a pretty interesting game.
Well, and the Vikings finally look like they have a defense, even though, as you say, they lost Darius. Still, the defense looks stout this year, Pete. Yep. Against San Francisco, they had a lot of guys in the lanes, which made it difficult, even though Purdy didn't have a horrible game, made it difficult for him to put the ball where he wanted to because they actually had some D-backs that looked like they wanted to play, which is rare for the Vikes. Now, Houston is giving 2.5 at Minnesota, Pete. Now, that kind of seems like a trap to me. Now, I know, and some people might say, well, John, Darnold had a 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson that really it wasn't the nail in the coffin, but it certainly hurt because when you got the Vikings down on their own 3-yard line and Darnold's throwing from deep in the end zone, what are the odds, even throwing to Justin Jefferson, that you're going to be able to get that kind of a play? And obviously the biggest probably the biggest, Pete, fantasy football point score of the year for that one. But I think that if everybody's healthy, giving 2.5 to the Vikings playing in Minnesota, I like the Vikings. So I'll be taking the Vikes in this one, Pete. And if they get turnovers, that stadium is going to get loud.
Yeah.
And it's one of those places, folks, if you haven't been there, when it's glass, basically. So the sound reverberates pretty big time within their dome, if you want to call it a dome. It's really a building, but it's pretty cool. And I think the Texans, even though they're used to playing indoors, Pete, will get a little test of their mettle against that crowd noise in Minnesota.
Yep, and CJ Stroud, the guy's a big, strong, great quarterback. I'm really excited to see this one, John. And by the way, we took 2 players from them on our defense that they no longer have. Of course, you got Cashman is one of the guys for sure, and then Grenard, and both of them. Last week, Cashman had an incredible game. He's right here from Minneapolis. He played at the University of Minnesota, got drafted by the Giants, went to Houston, and the kid is making bank because he's a hell of a linebacker. So fun kid to watch play. Should be a great game. I'm going to tell you this. I'm taking Houston, so you and I are on opposite sides of this one, but it should be fun.
Now, let me ask you this, Pete. I know that you held the Big Ten tackling record and the University of Minnesota tackling record. Cashman wasn't the one that broke it, was he?
No.
Did he ever get up to your numbers?
No. He had good numbers, but, I was pretty fortunate, John. I mean, I was playing, and it was, it was a great time, and I had some good years. My best year, I think I had 154 tackles or something like that. So it was a lot, but my body, that's why I've got this silly thing on my elbow. I got an operation on it like 5 weeks ago. So you pay for what you love, and sometimes the pay is something that you don't really enjoy. I had my knee operated on 5 or 6 weeks ago, and I got my elbow operated on 5 weeks ago. So whenever somebody says football players are overpaid, I'm like, look, you have no idea.
Well, I'm going to be going up to Wisconsin, Pete, and getting some stem cells from a doc that I know up there. First, I have to have, the stem cells pulled out and then enhanced, and then they're going to put them back in. So I'm going to get that shoulder and the opposite knee. And this shoulder is a hockey injury, and the opposite knee is a skiing injury. So, of course, I didn't play 6 years in the NFL like Pete. Played 4 games. All right. Thanks for joining us, folks. We really appreciate it. Make sure you do check out the Mastermind tickets. We still have some. I know it's incredible, but we still have some. You can go to marketrebellion.com/mastermind. You can also scan that barcode. It'll take you to, or that QR code. It'll take you to the same spot. Or if you're somebody who likes to talk to people, some of us still do, you can dial 888-809-8058. That's 888-809-8058. You could be there watching us trade live with some of the best traders in the country, people that have been doing it for a combined, 200 years. You want to be with some people like that, learning some tricks of the trade? Join us October 11th, Aventura, Florida. Have a nice night, everybody. We'll see you Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.